obviously, we're going to start off the show with the 49ers. The 49ers are now back on top of the NFC West. They have defeated the Seattle Seahawks. The final score was 36-24. And really, I felt like the 49ers were in control of this game and they were actually able to, close it out as opposed to the other NFC West games that they have played, over the past couple weeks. But, just a lot of the keys to the game that I think that I gave was limiting Kenneth Walker and limiting the Seahawks rushing attack, which the 49ers were able to do. The 49ers limited Kenneth Walker to just 2.3 yards per carry. He did get a rushing touchdown, but, it ended up not really playing a factor in the end. And, the Seahawks kind of abandoned the run. And I think that was also, to the 49ers' benefit. The Niners were able to not, I guess, focus so much because they did a good job of establishing, or I guess they did a good job of limiting the run early. And then the Seahawks kind of had no choice but to play catch up for the rest of the game because the 49ers offense, I think, they started off a little bit slow in the first quarter. It was, there were only 3 points scored in the first quarter. And then in the second quarter, the 49ers, were able to score 2 field goals and a touchdown. Obviously, that long touchdown pass to Debo, it looked like one of those plays like, in the old NFL, Debo would have probably been knocked out of the game. But in today's NFL, that is that's a tutty. That's easy money for Debo. I'm sure Mike was pretty excited about that because Mike, you have Debo on your fantasy team. And I forgot to mention, so looking back at like the past Seahawks versus 49ers games, they have typically been big Debo games. I don't know why I didn't mention that on the podcast. I just forgot. But, aside from that long touchdown, I don't think that Debo was really much of a factor in the game besides the Niners were able to get him going in the rushing attack just a little bit. He had 4 carries for 15 yards and that averages out to 3.8 yards per carry. And yeah, so, talking about like the passing game as a whole, my thoughts on Brock Purdy's performance, I think it was overall it was pretty positive. One thing I will say, which is good news, it's going to sound like a little bit of criticism, but it's good news. I think Brock Purdy can be even better than the way that he played against the Seahawks. They are typically a pretty good secondary that was maybe a little bit banged up, missing one of their top cornerbacks in Tariq Woolen. But I think that Purdy on a couple plays maybe can, improve in getting through his progressions a little bit better and maybe staying inside the pocket, for a little bit longer, rather than bailing out. But, I think a couple weeks ago I was saying how much it's nice to have a quarterback that can escape the pocket. Now I'm kind of, I guess I would say talking out of both sides of my mouth. But in terms of I just think Purdy would also agree that, there's a couple things that he could clean up. But overall, solid performance from Brock Purdy. Jordan Mason did go down in the game. Jordan Mason finished off the game with 9 carries, 73 yards, averaging 8.1 yards per carry, which is, insane. Like every single game that we talk about Jordan Mason, his average yards per carry is always very high. So, he's a very good running back. He's in a good system. And, Jordan Mason averaging 8.1 yards per carry wasn't the most on the team. It was actually Isaac Guerrero, the rookie running back, who had to come in after Jordan Mason got knocked out of the game with a shoulder injury. Like, he didn't really get knocked out of the game for very long. He came back in and then had one rush. And then after that one rush, I think they just completely sidelined him for the rest of the game. But I want to say it was a shoulder, like an AC joint sprain that they said it was. So We'll have to monitor what that means for Jordan Mason going forward. I don't necessarily know the severity of the injury. So, give me a slap on the wrist for not being prepared for that portion of the show. But Isaac Guerrero came in, and you can see the flashes of Isaac Guerrero and his playmaking ability with just his raw talent. I think the thing about Guerrero is just being able to read the holes properly and hit the right holes. Because, I mean, I saw this comparison being thrown out. I think I was listening to KNBR, the post game show, or maybe it was 95.7 The Game. But there was a caller who called in and compared Isaac Guerrero looking like Raheem Mostert. And honestly, that's kind of what it reminds me of, because, I mean, the speed is there. I think the size is there. And yeah, I mean, we all know what Raheem Mostert was able to do. And I think it's pretty good that the 49ers have a lot of different options that they can, utilize in the run game. Because not only did Mason and Guerrero get going, obviously Purdy, I talked about his scrambling already. He carried the ball 4 times for 19 yards. Patrick Taylor Jr., I thought looked fine in the game. He had 5 carries for 16 yards, obviously not as efficient as the other running backs. Most of Guerrero's yards, going back to Guerrero, most of Guerrero's yards came on that. I forget how many yards it was, because, I mean, that was on Thursday. But you saw the breakaway speed, and obviously the Seahawks player came in and swiped at Guerrero's feet, and he tried to play it off as if, he was sliding, which was the right thing to do in that situation. I think Shanahan said, he would have liked to see Guerrero score on that play, but I mean, that's such a small thing, and it didn't end up making a difference in the game. But that's that clock management of the games late in the game. Shanahan, I think the smart thing to do is probably go down and milk the clock so the Seahawks don't have a chance. But maybe Kyle was just joking. I'm not gonna look at it too critically, but for a couple games this season, I have criticized Shanahan for his clock management, and obviously there's no way he could have, I don't think that he was expecting the Seahawks to really be, to come back in the game. At the end, it got got a little bit, a little bit close. I think the Seahawks came within 1 possession towards the end of the game, and you're just kind of sitting here thinking is this going to happen again? But the 49ers were able to close out the game, and yeah, finishing up my point with the rushing offense, Deebo Samuel. Obviously, I said that he had 4 carries, and then Kyle Juszczyk had 1 carry for 6 yards and a touchdown. He jumped into the stands for the second time in the game, because Kittle had a toe tap touchdown and then found his wife in the end zone along with Juszczyk. And it's funny, when I was watching the game, I was like, hey, no, Kyle Juszczyk shouldn't be jumping in the stands. He has to earn it. And then later in the game, got the touchdown, he earned it. So, part of me thinks that the utilization of Juszczyk this week is sort of, I don't know if there's a little bit of showmanship, where there's been a lot of buzz surrounding Kyle Juszczyk recently, and his lack of contribution to the team, and social media, because Kyle Juszczyk recently called out a friend of the show, Grant Cohn. But I wonder if this was Grant's pretty critical on Juszczyk, and just his, he doesn't really contribute, in the stat book, or in terms of actually getting the ball, and he's getting paid a lot of money. So maybe this is a little bit, definitely Juszczyk got some love in this game. So, you interpret it how you want at home, but part of me is that isn't that funny, after the big criticism of Kyle Juszczyk and him being under the spotlight a little bit. The passing game was extremely balanced. I want to say that the targets were kind of evenly distributed between most of the receivers. In terms of catches, it's pretty close. Deebo Samuel had 3 catches, 102 yards, and a touchdown. Kittle had 5 catches, 58 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ayuk, 2 catches, 37 yards. Jennings, 3 catches, 27 yards. Patrick Taylor Jr. used check, and Mason also got involved in the passing game, catching check downs. But one thing I will say that is it's interesting to me, and a lot of things are interesting to me because I say it a lot here on this podcast, but what are the 49ers going to do now that they're going to be activating the practice window on Ricky Pearsall? He is going to be, getting back into this lineup. Is there going to be a role for him? Is he going to be a punt returner? Where does he fit in on this football team? Because when Pearsall was drafted, my assumption is that either Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel would be gone. They're both in this offense. They just paid Brandon Ayuk $30 million per year with $75 million guaranteed. They just extended him. And Ayuk is having trouble carving out his own portion of this offense. I think Ayuk only had 4 targets. They're very efficient targets. He had 18.5 yards per catch, but where does Pearsall get in? Because Juwan Jennings has even emerged this season. Jennings has always been a good player, but this is probably easily his best regular season so far.
Mm.
And
he's definitely on pace for that, for sure.
Yeah, he's on pace for that so far. Ricky Pearsall did they just draft him just to be insurance if Ayuk didn't sign? I don't know. That'll be something to monitor going forward, but ultimately it felt pretty good that the 49ers did end up winning this game, getting back in the win column, because had they lost this game, do they make the playoffs? Can we project the 49ers if they had lost to the Seahawks to make the playoffs, sitting at 2-4, going, playing against Kansas City? Obviously, it's going to be a home game, so that might, add a little bit of a wrinkle to it. But I think this is a good moment to pivot to the 49ers versus Chiefs preview. We have to talk about it, Mike. Are the 49ers going to be able to beat the Chiefs this time around? They have yet to do it under the Shanahan era.
Oh, well, I would say this is definitely the weakest, least healthy you could possibly meet the Chiefs. As in the Chiefs team is unhealthy and weak at its weakest right now.
Granted, have they been going to McDonald's with Andy Reid?
Yeah. Granted, they're 5-0. Yeah.
Is that how unhealthy they are?
I
know what you mean. Health-wise,
yeah.
Like in terms of injury, they are a banged-up football team right now, missing a lot of their playmakers.
Yes, the last quarterback. Did the Chiefs play today, or are they coming off a bye against you guys?
They're coming off a bye, and Andy Reid coming off a bye is a lethal head coach, lethal play caller.
That's usually the Raiders that drop the the Chiefs off the bye. So for once, the Raiders make out well, I guess. Not that it matters this year. Well, that's tough. Are we in week 6 right now?
This is going to be week 7.
Going on to week 7, yeah. Okay, so yeah, they're 5-0, even though they are extremely injured. Well, to put it simply, I'm not going to bet against Andy Reid coming off the bye week. I think the Niners got a big win this past week against the Seahawks, but the Niners are coming off of Thursday Night Football, so they get their own little extended bit of rest as well. So It's not completely, unfair. You do have. You obviously don't have everybody. You don't have McCaffrey.
It's almost like both teams that met in February got a little bit worse. They regressed just a little bit because, right now the Chiefs are missing Rashee Rice and Isaiah Pacheco. Those are two huge losses on that offense. But I mean, the Chiefs still do have Xavier Worthy, whereas they didn't have him in February. Obviously, the game went the way that it did. They will be without L'Jarius Sneed, who they traded this offseason. So that sort of works in the 49ers' favor. But on the other hand, the Chiefs' defense is still very good.
Yeah, they still have Trent McDuffie. It's like Spagnuolo. It's just Spags. He will get it to work every year for them as long as he's with the Chiefs. And then, in a year from now or 2 years from now, if the Raiders were to hire him as their head coach, it suddenly wouldn't work out. But, that's just how things go in the NFL.
Are you hinting at something that you really want?
We'll see. No, but as far as this game against the Chiefs for the 49ers, I'm going to have to pick the Chiefs here. I see the avenue for the Niners to win this game. They're at home, you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to be a primetime game or is this a 1 p.m. game?
I think this is a 1 p.m. game. Let me double check. So 49ers versus Chiefs. It is going to be at Levi Stadium at 1:25 next Sunday.
It's probably the game of the week on Fox or something, but still, it's like, if you take away the injuries, I don't know what the schedule makers were thinking there. That's the game that everybody should be like, oh, I got to see that,
Well, everybody already did see it in February, is what I'll say. I don't know about you. Like, here's the thing. I said all these things about the 49ers having, sort of a minor advantage in the timing that they're playing the Chiefs this season, because the Chiefs will be without Pacheco. They will be without Rashee Rice. Obviously, I don't know if the Chiefs are going to get Hollywood Brown back at any portion, but, as of right now, the teams that we saw in February, these are regressed versions. They are not, deep playoff teams at this current stage right now. It's a double-edged sword because the 49ers are also without their offensive player of the year in Christian McCaffrey. Also, the defense, they're not playing at a high level right now. The Chiefs picked up Kareem Hunt off the street, and Kareem Hunt just handled 27 carries last week. And, I think Kareem Hunt, they utilized him a lot. Obviously, he's not going to be an exact one-for-one replacement to Isaiah Pacheco, but I like Kareem Hunt's skill set. I think we talked about Kareem Hunt as one of the players to sort of watch for the Raiders to pick up when we were talking about the whole Josh Jacobs contract situation with Josh McDaniels last year. I want to say Kareem Hunt was one of those guys that we said to watch, and then Kareem Hunt obviously didn't get signed and then eventually went to the Cleveland Browns. But there's going to be a couple matchups that I am interested to see. Will the absence of L'Jarius Sneed this time around mean that Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel is going to have a better game this time around? Will the addition of Dominic Pooney help against Chris Jones? Yeah, because Chris Jones, I mean, he was the guy that sealed the deal for the Chiefs on defense when 49ers had Brandon Ayuk wide open in the end zone, could have won them the Super Bowl. Obviously the Chiefs would have gotten the ball back still, but small things like that, like the ball could have bounced the 49ers way a little bit more in that game. You never know. They might have been champions. Will Dominic Pooney, who has been playing very well this season so far, be will he be able to contribute? Will Renardo Green and Malik Mustafa step up like they did against the Seahawks? I'm bringing them up now because I forgot to bring them up in the Seahawks recap. I knew I was forgetting one thing. it is nice to see rookies actually contribute. Both of them had interceptions against the Seahawks. We have seen in years prior, there has been a lack of involvement from 49ers rookies. And this is like the renaissance. This is, I think, in my opinion, the best draft they've had in some years. Who from last year's draft is even contributing now? Jake Moody right now is injured.
Right.
We don't even have Cam Latu anymore. We didn't have a first-round pick. Our second-round pick was... Did we have a second-round pick last year? Oh, was it the defensive end?
Is it Drake Jackson?
Was it Drake Jackson that year, or was that the year before? I forget.
I feel like that was the year before.
Yeah.
Because I think last year he was injured, unless that's this year.
Jair Brown.
Yeah.
Jair Brown. Yeah. So he has been like the lone player from last year's draft to actually be contributing right now to this football team.
Yeah.
You know, and then Jake Moody when he's healthy. This year, I think we can see it. Renardo Green is a massive upgrade over Ambry Thomas. But one thing I have an issue with is the only reason why Renardo Green saw the field is because Charvarius Ward didn't play. Is Charvarius Ward going to suit up and play this week? I don't know. That's going to be huge, in my opinion. Charvarius Ward is a hell of a player. Now imagine if we can get Ward, Lenore, and Renardo Green all playing at the same time. They're all pretty physical corners, especially Ward and Green. I want to see if they can out physical the Chiefs in this game. You know, try to bully the Kansas City Chiefs.
That's probably how you have to do it if you want to beat them. That's how the Raiders did it, and that was the last time that they lost a game.
Yeah, the last time that they lost a game was to the Antonio Pierce-led Raiders on Christmas Day.
And Aiden O'Connell is the last quarterback to beat the Chiefs.
Aiden O'Connell, Merry Christmas. Go fuck yourself. Not you, Aiden. Not anybody in particular. Just I don't know why I said that, but I don't know. When it comes to picking a winner in this game, man, I'm gonna have to do it. So just to recap last week, Mike and I are back in, the green column for the 49ers. Mike, you are picking the Chiefs in this game?
Yep.
Oh man. I mean, here's the thing to consider too. If I describe this team to you right now, without saying a team name, which team does this describe? This team has been very successful over the past several years. This team has yet to lose to the 49ers in the Shanahan era. This team constantly gets help from the refs in very crucial moments of every game. This team is the darling right now of the NFL. This team has billion-dollar girlfriends in the stands that take camera time away from the players constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And this team is making the NFL the most money right now. What team am I describing? I didn't use any names.
Well, I know it's not the Cowboys.
Yeah. No,
but it sure does sound like the Chiefs.
This is the first time on this podcast. I want to be very clear. I'm rooting for the 49ers to win this game. I'm a 49ers fan. I even brought the helmet just in case because I know I'm wearing a different hat today that's not a Niner hat. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win this game because Andy Reid, coming off a bye, has such a great record. The 49ers just beat the Seahawks, but the Chiefs are not the Seahawks. You know, if the 49ers win this game, I'm feeling really good about their, I guess, game against the Cowboys and going into the bye, how they kind of stand in the playoff picture, and if they're the team to beat in the NFC. If the 49ers can hand the Chiefs their first loss, that would be something. But it's something that I have not seen yet, and I don't think I can pick against the Chiefs winning this football game. And this is the first time on this podcast, we've been doing this since last season, where I have picked another team that was not the 49ers, where I'm predicting that they will win.
Yeah, that's what going on a dynasty can do, for sure.
Yeah.
You want to know something disgusting?
The Chiefs?
Well, yes, for sure. But besides that, just looking at this, these columns here and looking at, okay, Chiefs, Cowboys, bye week.
Yeah.
We are 2 weeks away from mid-season. That doesn't feel right. Like, this season's flying by.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh.
Yeah. I posed this question on Twitter. It's sort of posting for, like on the Silver and Gold podcast Twitter account. If you want to give it a follow, the @ is @silver_gold pod. So, the sort of preview for this episode, I asked, are the 49ers the team to, have they reemerged as the team to beat in the NFC? Do you think so, Mike?
The team to beat in the NFC? I think today, the team that showed themselves as the team to beat, although they lost their best defensive player, is the Detroit Lions.
I forgot about the Lions.
Yeah.
I've got two other teams that I'm thinking of who can also fit the description of the teams to beat in the NFC ahead of the 49ers.
I'll give you one for sure is the Vikings.
The Vikings, and the other one is the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the 49ers will play the Packers in a couple of weeks. So we will see how the tides sort of shift in the NFC, to that point.
I want to see one other score before we get off that topic. I want to see if my app will load. All right, really quick. Let's go league. Okay. So the other team that I was thinking of, I don't necessarily think they are a team to beat, but they are by far the upper echelon of wild card teams in the NFC, the Washington Commanders. They've played the Ravens today, and they lost to the Ravens, I think at 30-23. But they have been playing very well. And if they can keep that up, and especially if they can win that division, that is definitely a team to look out for. But I wouldn't call them a team to beat. A team to beat in the NFC. Like, that's... You know who else? Last one, Buccaneers. They are sneakily good right now.
The 49ers will play the Buccaneers coming off their bye week. So that will be in 4 weeks from now. So we're in week 7. That's going to be week 10.
Yeah.
Or we're headed into week 7. That's going to be week 10. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that, like I mentioned, we're getting close to midseason, like the playoffs and the implications are starting to show themselves, and these teams are starting to really show themselves. So, it's getting interesting. I would definitely say that this season has felt very weird between a lot of key injuries, including, Christian McCaffrey, everybody on the Chiefs, but a lot of different teams like losing players, whether it's long-term or even short-term, and then teams like the Commanders and Vikings coming out of nowhere and being top teams in the NFC. It's like, what is going on here? So it's been an interesting season for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if a team like the Vikings can continue being that top seed, I don't know how I would feel about the 49ers going into Minnesota to play a playoff game, that would be very tough. But one thing I will say is I feel like at some point Sam Darnold is just going to screw that team over in the biggest Sam Darnold way. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, we're going to be talking about this a couple months from now, and Sam Darnold beats the 49ers in the NFC Championship game in Minnesota. And then I'm going to be begging for Jed York to fire Kyle Shanahan for keeping the wrong quarterback. No. I still think Purdy's better than Darnold, but Darnold is actually, playing well this season, surprisingly.
That's the thing with Darnold to me is like, I think his early career was very reminiscent, but like a poor man's version of Derek Carr, where it was like going coach to coach to coach, struggle. Whereas Carr, it was like, coach to coach to coach, but he kind of slowly got better and better. And then obviously 2016 happened and so forth. But he never kept it consistent, right? Whereas Darnold, like a lot of quarterbacks, I think in the NFL, you want them to pan out year one, year two, by year two, get it right,
Like CJ Stroud, Jaden Daniels,
Yes, that's what you're looking for, and even like the first overall pick this year, Caleb Williams, like he started off slow, he started off with a lot of mistakes and stuff, but like this week he went out for 4 touchdowns, and I won't be shocked when a year from now it's like, yeah, he's one of the top 8 quarterbacks in the league. Because most quarterbacks, they kind of hit their next gear in the second season of their career. And it's like those rare quarterbacks, the Jaden Daniels and CJ Stroud, were just like year one, they're going,
straight out the gate.
But I'd say most quarterbacks, at least most quarterbacks that don't pan out immediately and maybe even get kind of, not forgotten about, but their team gives up on them. They kind of run out of the clock on them. A lot of those quarterbacks, when they get another chance, think of Geno Smith, this isn't quite the same, but Jared Goff, like he always had his chance, but then the Rams kind of gave up on him, traded him. He's way better now with the Lions. And I think a lot of that is coaching, but also quarterbacks being able to get consistent time with an offensive coordinator and just time in the NFL. And I think that might be something that's happening for Sam Darnold, who was a guy who, when Baker Mayfield went first overall, which that's another great example, is Baker Mayfield and how his career has gone. But when Baker Mayfield went first overall in that NFL draft, it might have been 2017, a lot of people thought that Sam Darnold was going to be the first overall pick, in large part because as a prospect, he had all the tools as a quarterback. It was just a matter of, can he get it to work in the NFL? And I think O'Connell has proven in the short time that he's been the head coach of the Vikings that he is a very, very good offensive play caller. And maybe he was that guy that Sam Darnold needed. And, now suddenly, I mean, a couple years ago we had the Ravens backup. I'm forgetting his name. Tyler Huntley, he made the Pro Bowl. Last year, Gardner Minshew made the Pro Bowl. It is not by any means a stretch to say right now Sam Darnold is a Pro Bowler. It's right now. And I get your point of like, I'm waiting for him to kind of falter and slip up and, do the Sam Darnold thing. But I'm kind of looking at this in a more optimistic sense. I know this isn't a Viking show or a Sam Darnold show. He used to be on the Niners, but I have an odd sense of belief in him. I think it's going to keep working for him, and for all I know, he will be the Raiders quarterback next year, or he will be starting next year. He will be a starter. Bank it.
You know what? You bring up a very interesting statement. You said this is not a Viking show. I'm going to see Nick Swartzen in about like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So you know what? We're a Vikings show now. We will be talking about the Vikings. Forget the Niners. Forget the Raiders. Silver and gold is now the purple and horny. No. But no. getting back to reality, we are continuing to be 49ers and Raiders, if you couldn't catch my sarcasm. Yeah, man, piggybacking off your point, it really matters where you're drafted and the system that you're in, because we have seen the Jets just be horrible organizations. I didn't even bring this up, but like last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, I said, can we just fast forward to when Robert Saleh gets fired by the Jets and, he becomes the 49ers defensive coordinator again?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, the Jets look horrible. They, like, as an organization, because they had the number 2 defense with a defensive head coach, and their solution is, you know what? Hey, the guy who's not even calling the offense, get him the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And then Nathaniel Hackett just sits and gets to watch his Austin Powers movies and make gold member references. I think Hackett has since been demoted as the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, he had his play calling duties revoked.
Yeah. So my brother and I, we have this like funny thing that like, we just kind of talk shit about Nathaniel Hackett a little bit on how he's like a really bad offensive coordinator.
Yes.
But a couple years ago, the Jets were on Hard Knocks, and I think my brother and I grew up watching the Austin Powers movies. That was like, those were on repeated rotation. As we were growing up, and so in Hard Knocks, I guess Nathaniel Hackett makes like Austin Powers gold member references, and I think like I told Joey when he got demoted, it's like, no, he just his new position now on the Jets is the International Man of Mystery. That's his new fucking job title on LinkedIn, International Man of Mystery. But let's get back on topic. Let me say what's up to the people in the comments section. Thrash says hello. Thrash, welcome back. Fonzie says, what's up, guys? Fonzie, also welcome back. We're fine. Took a couple weeks, but we're back on top. Back, first place, NFC West. Things are looking up, except for the fact, Fonzie, you missed it. This, we're still technically under the Niners Chiefs preview. For the first time, I think that the 49ers are not going to win a game this entire time that I've predicted. This is my first prediction against them. So the death of Slim Shady, coup de grace, the death of picking the 49ers every single week as a lock, for Josh. So, I mean, the Niners could win, but I don't know how I can pick against the Kansas City Chiefs. I can't look dumb again. I just can't. And hopefully the 49ers make me look dumb. So